Let's talk about the phone in your pocket, or maybe the t-shirt you're wearing right now. Where'd it come from? And maybe more importantly, where is it going to go when you're done with it? For, well, most of modern history, the answer has been a pretty straight line. From a mine or a field to a factory, to you, and then to a landfill. Today, we're going to unpack why that straight line is starting to look like a dead end and what's ready to take its place.
Okay, so this is it. This is the big idea, right here on one slide. For a couple hundred years, we've lived by the model on the left, the linear model. Take, make, dispose. It's a one-way street, simple as that. The circular model on the right, it just changes that last word. Instead of dispose, the final step is return. Now, it's a small change in words, but it changes everything.
So first, let's just dig into the system we all know, right? The one that's built our modern world, but is really starting to show its age. This whole take, make, dispose thing is super simple, but it was all built on one kind of crazy idea, that we've got endless stuff to take from the planet and an endless hole to throw our trash into. And for a while, we could kind of get away with that thinking. But our world has changed, big time. And the sheer scale of it all is just staggering. We're talking 7.8 billion people on the planet right now, and that number is still climbing. That linear system just wasn't built for this many of us wanting this much stuff. It's being pushed way past its limits.
And this picture right here is what you get at the end of that one-way street. But here's the kicker. This isn't just garbage. It's a mountain of lost value. Think about it. Those are metals, plastics, fabrics, things we spent a ton of energy to dig up and make into something only to literally throw them away. The whole system is designed to be inefficient. But what if there's a better way? What if waste is just a resource in the wrong place? This brings us to the really big idea that's catching on all over the world, the circular economy. So, in a circular economy, the whole game changes. Products are designed from the very beginning to have more than one life. The whole point is to keep materials flowing, to keep them in use for as long as humanly possible, through repairing, reusing, and eventually recycling them back into something new. You're basically designing waste out of the system before it's even created.
But here's a crucial point. Not all these circular actions are created equal. You got to think of it like a ladder. The most powerful moves you can make are right there at the top. Just refuse what you don't need in the first place, or reduce what you do use. Further down the ladder, you have super valuable things like reusing and repairing. And then, kind of as a last resort, you've got recycling. The higher up that ladder you can act, the more value you keep in the system. Okay. So let's see how this all moves from just an idea to something real. And let's start big. I'm talking about the biggest things we build, our cities and our buildings. This one idea, it's a total game changer for construction. Instead of designing a building for demolition, where it just becomes a pile of rubble, architects are starting to design for deconstruction. From day one, they're asking, how can we take this apart cleanly in the future? The goal is to create a giant reusable set of Lego blocks, not a messy pile of dust. And you can see the difference so clearly here. On the right, that's the old way, demolition. A building becomes low-value rubble. But on the left, now that's the Triodos Bank in the Netherlands. It's a beautiful building, for sure, but it's also a materials bank. It was built so that almost every part of it, from the huge wooden beams down to the tiny screws, can be easily taken apart and used again somewhere else. This quote from Menno Robbins, a developer who's actually doing this stuff, it just hits the nail on the head. He's saying the real genius isn't just in building something, it's building it with a foresight and the planning for what comes next for its second life. All right, so let's zoom in a bit. From massive buildings down to the stuff we buy and use every single day. Because the same ideas apply, whether we're talking about a skyscraper or just a simple t-shirt. Oh man, the fashion industry. It is the poster child for the problems of the linear economy. We're making more clothes than ever before in history, but the amount of time we actually wear any single piece of clothing has just plummeted. It's creating this incredible stream of waste. But you know what? It's also a massive opportunity to do something brilliant. So check out this real-world example from India. A huge fashion company called ABFRL had the same problem as everyone else.
What do you do with clothes that get returned or with all the packaging waste? Well, instead of seeing trash, they saw a raw material. They teamed up with a paper company that takes all their old textiles and cardboard, shreds it all up, pulps it, and then turns it into brand new paper inserts for their innerwear products.
And that is what closing the loop looks like in the real world. One company's waste literally becomes another company's raw material. This proves it's not just about being green, it's about being commercially smart. ABFRL turned what was a cost, getting rid of waste, into a valuable resource for their own products.
So this all sounds pretty great, right? But how do we actually make the circular economy the new normal? It's not something one company or one person can just decide to do. The entire system has to change.
Well, the potential impact on our climate is just massive. Look at this chart for India. An analysis by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation projects that switching to a circular model could slash greenhouse gas emissions by 23% by 2030. That is a huge chunk, and it comes from just being smarter with the stuff we already have. So, what's going to push this change forward? It really comes down to a mix of three powerful forces. First, you've got policy, with governments like the Netherlands saying, hey, we're going 100% circular by 2050. Then you've got finance, with investors actually putting their money into these new sustainable projects. And, of course, you've got business innovation, with companies dreaming up cool new ways to do things, like renting products or creating easy take-back programs.
And that brings it all right back to us. Because the circular economy isn't just for big governments and corporations. It's actually built by our choices, every single day. When we decide to repair something instead of tossing it, or we choose a brand because they'll take their product back at the end of its life, we are actively voting for and building this new economy.
You know, when you really think about it, this whole take, make, dispose era, it was just a short little chapter in the long story of humanity. It was an experiment. Now we have the know-how, we have the technology to build a way, way smarter system that actually works with nature instead of against it. We know how to close the loop. So the only real question left is, are we ready to do it for good?